Natalie Spencer stood in her downtown Chicago office, staring at the holiday party invitation on her desk. Her phone buzzed with another text from her mother. The annual Spencer Christmas gathering was in 3 days, and her family expected her to bring someone special. For the third year in a row, she would be the only single person at the table while her 2 brothers showed off their picture-perfect relationships. Her older brother James worked as a surgeon and was married to a lawyer. Her younger brother Patrick ran a tech startup and had recently gotten engaged to a fashion designer. Meanwhile, Natalie coordinated corporate events, which her father still referred to as party planning despite her protests. She loved her work, but her family never seemed impressed. The worst part was that Trevor would be there. Her ex-boyfriend had somehow remained close to her family after their breakup 2 years ago. He was bringing his new girlfriend, a model he met at some charity gala. Natalie could already picture the sympathetic looks from her relatives as they compared her single status to Trevor's apparent upgrade. She sighed and turned back to her computer, trying to focus on the proposal for a spring wedding. The venue needed confirmation, the caterer had questions about dietary restrictions, and the bride wanted to change the color scheme for the 4th time. Normal chaos for her job. A knock on her office door made her look up. Owen Mitchell leaned against the doorframe, holding 2 cups of coffee from the shop downstairs. He was tall and had dark hair that always looked slightly messy in an appealing way. His green eyes held a mix of intelligence and mischief that made him interesting to talk to during their occasional work collaborations. Owen worked as an architect for a firm that often partnered with Natalie's event company for venue consultations. They had worked together on several projects over the past year, developing an easy rapport that balanced professional respect with playful banter. "You look like you need this," Owen said, placing one of the cups on her desk. The rich aroma of her favorite caramel latte filled the small office. "That obvious?" Natalie accepted the coffee gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. Owen settled into the chair across from her desk, his long legs stretched out comfortably. "I heard you sighing from the hallway. What's wrong?" "Family drama," she admitted, then wondered why she was being so honest. Maybe it was because Owen always listened without judgment. "My family's Christmas gathering is this weekend, and I'm dreading it." "Why? Bad cook?" Owen asked with a slight smile. "No, the food is amazing. It's just that everyone will be coupled up except me. My brothers love to show off their perfect relationships, and my ex-boyfriend will be there with his gorgeous new girlfriend. I'll be the family charity case again." Owen was quiet for a moment, studying her with that focused attention he usually reserved for building designs. "What if you brought someone?" "Right, because I can just conjure up a boyfriend in 3 days, Natalie said sarcastically. "Maybe I should check if there's an app for that." "I'll go with you," Owen said simply. Natalie nearly dropped her coffee. "What? I'll be your boyfriend for Christmas." "Well, your fake boyfriend." He said it so casually, as if offering to help her move furniture rather than suggesting an elaborate deception. "You can't be serious." "Why not? We already know each other, so we can answer questions naturally. We have a built-in story about how we met through work. And I'm told I can be quite charming when necessary." He delivered the last part with such exaggerated confidence that Natalie found herself laughing despite her shock. "This is completely insane." "Maybe," Owen agreed, leaning forward with growing enthusiasm. "But think about it. You get your family off your back. I get a fancy Christmas dinner because my family is in Seattle and I was planning to spend the holiday alone watching movies. Plus, it might be fun." Natalie should have said no immediately. Any reasonable person would have. But she was tired of the pitying looks, the helpful suggestions about dating apps, and the endless comparisons to her successful brothers. And Owen was right. He was charming. Her family would probably love him. "What do you want in return?" she asked carefully. "Because I know nothing comes free." Owen thought for a moment. Those tickets to the Architecture Innovation Summit in January. I know you won a pair in that raffle last month. You can give me both since you'll owe me a huge favor. The summit tickets were valuable, and Natalie had been looking forward to attending. But facing another Christmas as her family's pet project seemed worse than missing a conference. Deal, she said, extending her hand across the desk. Owen's handshake was firm and warm, his grip lingering slightly longer than necessary. Excellent. So when do we start preparing? Preparing? Natalie, if we're going to convince your family, we need to be believable. We need our story straight. How long have we been dating? Where was our first real date? What do I call you when we're alone? Heat crept up her neck at that last question. I hadn't thought about all that. Lucky for you, I think ahead about everything. Owen pulled out his phone. Meet me tonight at that coffee shop near the Riverwalk. 7 o'clock. We'll work out all the details. This feels very official for a fake relationship, Natalie said, already adding the location to her calendar. If we're doing this, we're doing it properly. Owen stood, finishing his coffee. Besides, spending time with you isn't exactly a punishment. He left before she could respond, leaving Natalie alone with her rapidly cooling latte and a fluttering sensation in her chest that she refused to examine too closely. That evening, Natalie changed clothes 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a cream sweater. She told herself it didn't matter what she wore since this was just a planning meeting. But she still checked her reflection twice before leaving her apartment. The coffee shop was cozy and warm, decorated with twinkling lights and garlands. Owen had claimed a corner table away from the main crowd and had already ordered. He had changed too, now wearing jeans and a dark blue sweater that made his green eyes more noticeable. You look nice, he said as she approached. Thanks. You too. Natalie slid into the seat across from him, accepting the hot chocolate he had ordered for her. He remembered she preferred chocolate to coffee in the evenings. Owen pulled out a small notebook, opening it to reveal neat handwriting. I made a list of things we need to decide. Of course you did, Natalie smiled. Owen approached everything with the same careful planning, whether it was a building design or apparently a fake relationship. First question, he read. How long have we been together? I'm thinking 3 months. Long enough to be serious about bringing me home for Christmas, but short enough that your family hasn't met me yet. That works. What about how we started dating? Owen looked thoughtful. We were working on that hotel renovation project in September. Everyone else had left for the day, but we stayed late to finalize the ballroom layout. We ordered pizza, and while we waited, we just started talking. Really talking, not just about work. And I realized how remarkable you are. The way he said it, looking directly at her, made Natalie's breath catch. It sounded too real. Then what happened? She asked softly. Then I kissed you, Owen said simply. Right there in the empty ballroom with the city lights coming through the windows. Natalie laughed nervously, breaking the intensity of the moment. Very romantic. It needs to be believable, Owen said with a slight smile. Perfect relationships don't exist in real life. The details make it real. They spent the next hour building their story piece by piece. Their first official date was dinner at that Italian restaurant Natalie loved in Lincoln Park. Owen's favorite thing about her was her passion for making events perfect. Natalie's favorite thing about him was how he made her laugh even during stressful projects. What should I call you? Owen asked, refilling their cups from the carafe he had ordered. Do you like nicknames? Natalie wrinkled her nose. Not really. They always feel forced. So just Natalie then. He paused. Though my college friends used to call me Spence. Owen's expression softened. Spence. I like it. The coffee shop felt warm and intimate. Natalie found herself noticing details she had never paid attention to before. The way Owen listened so intently when she spoke. How his eyes crinkled slightly when he smiled. The graceful movement of his hands as he gestured while talking. "We should practice," Owen said suddenly. "Practice what?" "Being comfortable together. Couples have a certain ease with each other. Physical comfort. If we're stiff and awkward, your family will know something's wrong." Before Natalie could process what he meant, Owen moved to sit beside her instead of across from her. The booth suddenly felt very small. "May I?" he asked, and when she nodded, he slid his arm around her shoulders. Natalie went rigid for a moment, then forced herself to relax. Owen was right. They needed to seem natural together. She leaned into his side and was surprised by how well she fit there. "See?" Owen's voice was lower now, more intimate. "Not so terrible, right?" "Not terrible," Natalie agreed quietly, very aware of his warmth and the subtle scent of his cologne. They sat like that for several minutes, and gradually Natalie felt her tension melting away. This was Owen. Someone she worked with, someone she trusted. Someone who was helping her through a difficult situation. "Your family is going to love me," Owen said quietly, almost to himself. "Probably more than they love me," Natalie joked, but there was real anxiety underneath. Owen's arm tightened slightly around her shoulders. "Then they'd be fools. You're the most genuine person I know, Spence. Don't let them make you feel like you need to be someone else." The sincerity in his voice made her throat tight. When had Owen become someone who understood her so well? As they left the coffee shop and walked to their cars, the Chicago wind cut through the evening air. Owen walked her to her vehicle, standing close enough to block some of the cold. 3 days, he said. Then we put on the performance of our lives. "Thank you for doing this," Natalie said. "I know it's weird." "It's not weird. It's helping a friend." Owen smiled. "Though I have to admit, I'm curious to see your family's mansion." Architect's curiosity. Natalie laughed. "It's very impressive. My mother will probably give you a full tour." "Perfect. I'll charm her with intelligent questions about the architecture." As Natalie drove home, she realized that the knot of dread in her stomach had loosened. Maybe this crazy plan would actually work. Maybe Owen could help her get through this Christmas without feeling like a failure. What she didn't expect was how right it had felt sitting beside him in that coffee shop. How natural his arm around her shoulders had seemed. How much she was looking forward to 3 more days of practicing being his girlfriend. Those were thoughts she pushed aside as she parked in her apartment building's garage. This was just a favor between friends. Nothing more. In a few days, Christmas would be over, and everything would go back to normal. At least, that's what she told herself. The Spencer family estate sat on the shores of Lake Michigan, a sprawling stone mansion that had been in the family for 3 generations. As Owen drove his car up the winding driveway, Natalie felt her stomach tighten with familiar anxiety. The house looked like something from a magazine with its perfectly trimmed hedges and warm lights glowing in every window. "Wow," Owen said softly, slowing down to take in the view. "You weren't kidding about impressive." "My grandfather built it in the 1950s, Natalie explained, gripping her bag tightly. "He made his fortune in manufacturing. My father grew up here." Owen reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. "Remember, we've got this. Just follow my lead." Before Natalie could respond, the front door opened and her mother appeared on the steps. Catherine Spencer was elegant in a burgundy dress, her silver hair styled perfectly. Her smile was warm but assessing as she watched them approach. "Natalie, darling." Her mother embraced her, then turned immediately to Owen with bright curiosity. "And this must be the mysterious boyfriend we've heard absolutely nothing about." "Mom, this is Owen Mitchell." "Owen, my mother Catherine." Natalie tried to keep her voice steady. Owen extended his hand with a confident smile. Mrs. Spencer, it's wonderful to finally meet you. Natalie talks about you all the time. I've been looking forward to this weekend. Catherine's expression softened instantly. Please, call me Catherine. Come in out of the cold. Everyone is already here. The interior of the house was even more intimidating than Natalie remembered. A massive Christmas tree dominated the entrance hall, decorated with ornaments collected over decades. The sound of laughter and conversation drifted from the living room. Owen's hand found the small of Natalie's back, a gentle reassuring touch. She leaned into it slightly, drawing strength from his presence. The living room was full. Her father David stood by the fireplace talking with her brother James. Patrick sat on the sofa with his fiancée Claire, while James's wife Monica arranged appetizers on the coffee table. And there, standing by the piano, was Trevor with his new girlfriend Amber. Trevor looked exactly as Natalie remembered. Tall and handsome with perfectly styled blonde hair and the confident posture of someone who had never been told no. Amber was stunning in a designer dress, her long dark hair cascading over her shoulders. Everyone, this is Owen, Catherine announced. Natalie's boyfriend. The room went silent for a moment as all eyes turned to them. Natalie felt herself shrinking under the attention, but Owen stepped forward smoothly. Great to meet you all, he said warmly. Natalie's told me so much about her family. James, I hear you're a surgeon at Northwestern. That must be incredibly demanding work. James looked pleased at being acknowledged first. Cardiac surgery, actually. It has its moments. What do you do, Owen? I'm an architect. I specialize in sustainable building design and historic renovation projects. Owen accepted a glass of wine from Natalie's father. Actually, Mr. Spencer, I'd love to hear about the history of this house. The stonework is exceptional. David Spencer's face lit up. Nothing pleased him more than discussing the family estate. As he launched into a detailed history, Natalie caught Trevor staring at Owen with barely concealed surprise. Throughout dinner, Owen was perfect. He asked Patrick about his startup, complimented Monica on the centerpiece she had arranged, and laughed at Claire's stories about wedding planning disasters. He held Natalie's hand under the table, his thumb drawing small circles on her palm that sent shivers up her arm. So how did you two meet? Trevor asked during dessert, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Natalie felt her heart race, but Owen answered smoothly. We work together occasionally. My firm consults on venue designs for events. We met last year, but it wasn't until September that things changed. Changed how? Amber asked, leaning forward with interest. Owen smiled, looking at Natalie with such warmth that she almost believed it was real. We were working late on a project. Everyone else had gone home. We ordered pizza and started talking about things beyond work. I realized I'd been seeing her as just a colleague when she was actually the most fascinating person I'd ever met. And then? Monica prompted, clearly charmed. Then I kissed her in an empty ballroom with the city lights behind us, Owen said simply. Best decision I ever made. Natalie felt her cheeks flush. The way he told the story made it sound so real, so inevitable. Around the table, her family smiled approvingly. Even her father looked pleased. Only Trevor seemed unconvinced. His jaw was tight, his eyes moving between Natalie and Owen with something that looked like jealousy. After dinner, the family gathered in the living room. Owen charmed Catherine by discussing architecture and art. He impressed David by knowing about vintage cars. He made Patrick laugh with stories about difficult clients. Natalie watched him navigate her family with ease, wondering how he made it look so effortless. He's wonderful, Monica whispered to Natalie while the men were examining David's collection of model ships. Where have you been hiding him? We wanted to keep things private at first, Natalie said, sticking to their prepared story. Smart. Trevor looks like he's about to explode, Monica observed with satisfaction. Good for you. Natalie glanced across the room where Trevor stood apart from the group, watching Owen with obvious displeasure. Amber seemed oblivious, chatting happily with Claire about vacation destinations. As the evening wore on, Natalie found herself relaxing. Owen's presence beside her felt natural. When he draped his arm across her shoulders, she leaned into him without thinking. When he laughed at something her father said, she found herself smiling at the sound. Around 11, people began drifting toward their rooms. The Spencer estate had plenty of guest bedrooms, and Catherine had prepared the blue room for Natalie and Owen. As they climbed the stairs together, Natalie suddenly realized the flaw in their plan. "There's only one bed," she said quietly as Owen closed the door behind them. The room was beautiful with its antique furniture and view of the lake. But the four-poster bed dominated the space, and there was nowhere else to sleep except a small love seat that would be impossibly uncomfortable. "I can take the love seat," Owen offered immediately. "You're like 6 feet tall. You'll never fit." "Then we'll share the bed," Owen said practically. "We're both adults. We can handle sleeping in the same bed without making it weird." Natalie nodded, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach. "Right. Of course. Not weird at all." They took turns in the bathroom changing into pajamas. When Natalie emerged in her cotton sleep shorts and oversized sweater, Owen was already in bed, reading something on his phone. He wore a simple gray shirt and pajama pants, his hair slightly damp from washing his face. Natalie slid under the covers on the other side of the bed, maintaining a careful distance. The mattress was large enough that they didn't have to touch, but she was intensely aware of his presence. "You did amazing tonight," Owen said, setting his phone aside. "Your family loves you, you know. They're just worried about you." "They have a funny way of showing it," Natalie said. "Constant questions about my love life, comparisons to my brothers, setting me up with random men. They see you as alone and they want you to be happy. They just don't understand that you can be both single and happy." Owen turned on his side to face her. "Though I have to say, pretending to be your boyfriend tonight didn't feel like pretending." Natalie's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "I mean that every compliment I gave you was true. Every smile was genuine. Holding your hand, having my arm around you, it all felt right." His green eyes were serious in the dim light. "I know that wasn't part of our deal, but I need you to know that." "Owen," Natalie whispered, her heart pounding. "You don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I just wanted to be honest. We can go back to the plan tomorrow. Tonight, I just needed you to know that this hasn't felt fake to me." Before Natalie could respond, a soft knock on the door made them both freeze. Owen quickly turned off the bedside lamp as Natalie called out, "Yes?" The door opened a crack and Trevor's voice came through. "Natalie? Can we talk?" Owen's hand found hers under the covers, squeezing gently. Natalie squeezed back before answering. "Trevor, it's late. Can it wait until morning? It's important." Trevor pushed the door open wider. In the moonlight from the window, Natalie could see his agitated expression. "I need to talk to you alone." "Anything you need to say to Natalie, you can say in front of me," Owen said calmly, sitting up. Trevor's jaw clenched. "This is between me and Natalie." "Trevor, go back to bed," Natalie said firmly. "We can talk tomorrow if you really need to." "I made a mistake," Trevor blurted out. "Breaking up with you. I've been thinking about it for months. Seeing you tonight with him made me realize what I lost." Natalie felt Owen tense beside her. She sat up, pulling the covers with her. "Trevor, you're with Amber. Amber is nice, but she's not you. She doesn't understand me like you did. We were good together, Natalie. We could be good again." "You need to leave," Owen said, his voice hard now. "This is inappropriate." "Who are you to tell me what's appropriate?" Trevor stepped further into the room. You've known her for what, a few months? I was with her for 2 years. And you chose to leave, Natalie said quietly. You said I wasn't ambitious enough, remember? That I was settling for a simple job when I could do better. You made me feel small, Trevor. I was wrong. I was an idiot. Trevor moved closer to the bed. Give me another chance. Owen was out of bed in an instant, placing himself between Trevor and Natalie. She asked you to leave. I'm asking you one more time, politely, to go back to your room. The two men faced each other in the moonlight. Trevor was slightly shorter but stockier. Owen was taller with the lean build of someone who stayed active. The tension crackled between them. This is fake, Trevor said suddenly. This whole thing with you too. I can tell. Natalie brought you here to make me jealous. You're wrong, Natalie said, climbing out of bed to stand beside Owen. Owen and I are together. What you and I had is over. It's been over for 2 years. I don't believe you. Trevor's voice rose. You expect me to believe you just happened to find someone perfect right before Christmas? Someone who charms your whole family and looks at you like you're the only person in the room? Believe what you want, Owen said steadily. But you need to leave now before you wake the whole house. Trevor looked between them, his face flushed with anger and something else. Hurt, maybe, or wounded pride. Finally, he turned and left, closing the door harder than necessary. Natalie sank back onto the bed, her legs shaking. Owen sat beside her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know he would do that. You have nothing to apologize for. He was out of line. Owen's voice was gentle. Are you okay? I don't know. He's right about one thing. This is fake. We're lying to everyone. Owen was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to face her, his expression serious. What if we stopped lying? What? What if we made this real? Owen took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. I know this started as a favor, as a way to help you through a difficult weekend. But somewhere between planning our fake story and sitting at your family's dinner table, something changed for me. Owen, we barely know each other outside of work. We've worked together for a year. We've spent hours talking over coffee and lunch. I know you prefer tea in the morning and hot chocolate at night. I know you stress clean when you're nervous and that you always double-check vendor contracts 3 times. I know you're kind and creative and stronger than you give yourself credit for. He moved closer. And I know that having my arm around you tonight felt like the most natural thing in the world. Natalie's heart raced. This is crazy. This whole situation is crazy. Maybe. But what if Trevor being jealous showed us something true? What if we stopped pretending and started exploring what this could actually be? What about after Christmas? What about work? We'll figure it out. Together. Owen cupped her face gently. I'm not asking you to have all the answers right now. I'm just asking you to consider that maybe this fake relationship is the beginning of something real. Natalie looked into his green eyes, seeing sincerity and hope and something deeper that made her breath catch. She thought about how safe she felt with him. How his presence made everything seem manageable. How right it felt when he held her hand. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. But maybe that means it matters. Owen smiled softly. We don't have to decide everything tonight. Let's just get through tomorrow, and then we'll talk. Really talk about what this is and what we want it to be. Natalie nodded, unable to form words. Owen pulled her into a gentle embrace, and she rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. They stayed like that for a long moment before climbing back into bed. This time, Natalie didn't maintain distance. She moved closer, and Owen's arm came around her naturally. She fit against his side perfectly, her head on his shoulder. "Good night, Spence," Owen whispered. "Good night, Owen." As Natalie drifted toward sleep, she realized that tomorrow would bring complications. Trevor might cause problems. Her family would have questions. The careful boundaries of their fake relationship had dissolved, leaving uncertainty in their place. But wrapped in Owen's warmth, listening to his breathing slow as he fell asleep, Natalie felt something she hadn't expected. Hope. Maybe this crazy plan had brought her exactly what she needed, just not in the way she had anticipated. Tomorrow would bring truth and consequences. Tonight, she let herself believe that sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of the blue room, painting everything in shades of gold. Natalie woke slowly, aware of warmth and safety before she remembered where she was. Owen's arm was still around her, her head resting on his chest. At some point during the night, they had moved even closer together, their legs tangled beneath the covers. She stayed still for a moment, listening to his steady breathing and feeling the rise and fall of his chest. This felt different from any relationship she had experienced before. With Trevor, everything had been about appearances and achievements. With Owen, even in this fake arrangement, everything felt genuine. Owen stirred, his arm tightening briefly around her before his eyes opened. When he saw her watching him, a slow smile spread across his face. "Good morning." "Morning," Natalie whispered. "We should probably get up. My mother expects everyone at breakfast by 9. 5 more minutes," Owen said, pulling her closer. "I'm too comfortable." Natalie laughed softly, but she didn't pull away. These 5 minutes felt stolen, precious. Tomorrow they would return to Chicago and face reality. Today, they still had to maintain their performance. A sharp knock on the door shattered the peaceful moment. "Natalie?" "Owen?" "Breakfast is ready." Catherine's voice was cheerful through the door. They separated quickly, both climbing out of bed. Natalie caught Owen's eye and they shared a smile at the absurdity of jumping apart like guilty teenagers. After taking turns in the bathroom and dressing in casual clothes, they headed downstairs hand in hand. The dining room was already full. James and Monica sat with their coffee, looking well-rested. Patrick and Claire were discussing wedding venues. But the tension was immediate. Trevor sat at one end of the table, his expression stormy. Amber beside him looked confused and uncomfortable. "There you are," Catherine said brightly, gesturing to empty seats. "I made your favorite, Natalie. Blueberry pancakes." As they settled in, Natalie felt the weight of Trevor's stare. Owen's hand found her knee under the table, a steady reassuring pressure. She placed her hand over his, drawing strength from the contact. "So Owen," David said from the head of the table. "Natalie mentioned you're working on a historic renovation downtown. The old Riverside building?" "That's right," Owen replied, accepting a plate of pancakes from Catherine. "It's a challenging project. The building dates back to 1922, so we're trying to modernize the interior while preserving the historic facade." "Sounds expensive," Trevor said suddenly. "Those kinds of projects must cost millions. I imagine your firm charges quite a bit." Owen's expression remained pleasant. "We charge fair rates for quality work. Historic preservation requires specialized knowledge. Must be profitable, though," Trevor continued, his tone casual but his intent clear. "I mean, to afford a lifestyle that matches Natalie's family expectations." The table went quiet. Catherine's smile tightened. James frowned. Patrick looked uncomfortable. Natalie felt her face flush with anger and embarrassment. "Trevor," Amber said softly, touching his arm. "What are you doing?" "I'm just curious about Natalie's new boyfriend," Trevor said, leaning back in his chair. "We all are, right? He shows up out of nowhere, perfectly charming, saying all the right things. It's almost too good to be true." That's enough, David said firmly. This is inappropriate. Is it? I'm just asking questions. Trevor's eyes were hard as they fixed on Owen. How much do you make a year, Owen? Can you support Natalie in the lifestyle she's accustomed to? Or is this all an act to impress her family? Owen set down his fork carefully. When he spoke, his voice was calm but there was steel underneath. My financial situation is between Natalie and me. But since you seem concerned about her well-being, let me be clear. Natalie doesn't need someone to support her. She's perfectly capable of supporting herself. What she needs is someone who respects her, values her work, and treats her as an equal partner. Something you apparently failed to do. Trevor's face flushed red. You don't know anything about our relationship. I know she's happier now than she was with you, Owen said simply. That's all that matters. This whole thing is fake, Trevor announced loudly, standing up abruptly. I don't know what game you two are playing, but I can see right through it. Natalie brought you here to make me jealous. She's still hung up on me and this is her way of trying to get my attention. Trevor, sit down, Catherine said sharply. You're making a scene. A scene? I'm telling the truth. Trevor pointed at Owen. He's not her boyfriend. This is all pretend. They barely know each other. Natalie felt her world tilting. She looked around the table at her family's shocked faces. Monica looked uncomfortable. James seemed angry. Patrick was confused. Her mother's expression was unreadable. Trevor, stop, Amber said, standing up with tears in her eyes. Just stop. This isn't about them. This is about you not being able to handle seeing Natalie happy with someone else. I'm exposing a lie, Trevor insisted. Owen stood slowly, his hand still holding Natalie's. You want the truth? Fine. Here's the truth. He took a deep breath. Trevor is partially right. When Natalie first asked me to come here, it was as a favor. She didn't want to face another Christmas being pitted by her family. She didn't want to deal with your matchmaking attempts or Trevor's presence with his new girlfriend. Natalie's heart sank. Her mother's face went pale. James looked betrayed. Owen was about to ruin everything. But Owen continued, his voice strong and clear. So yes, initially this was an arrangement. A fake relationship to get through one difficult weekend. But here's what Trevor doesn't understand. Somewhere between planning our story and actually living it, something real happened. Owen turned to face Natalie fully, still holding her hand. I fell in love with you. Not the version of you that your family sees. Not the successful event coordinator or the dutiful daughter. I fell in love with the woman who stress cleans her office before big meetings. Who always orders extra sauce because she hates being wasteful. Who cares so deeply about making every event perfect because she knows how much moments matter to people. Tears pricked Natalie's eyes. Owen's voice was thick with emotion as he continued. I fell in love with your laugh when something genuinely surprises you. The way you bite your lip when you're thinking. How you always see the potential in struggling ideas and find ways to make them work. I fell in love with your kindness, your creativity, your strength. He cupped her face gently with his free hand. So yes, this started as pretend. But it became real faster than I expected. I'm in love with you, Natalie Spencer. That's the truth. And I don't care if your family approves or if Trevor believes me. I only care what you think. The dining room was completely silent. Natalie could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Owen's green eyes held hers, vulnerable and honest and waiting. You love me, she whispered. Completely, Owen said simply. Natalie felt tears spill over. I love you too. I think I started falling that first night at the coffee shop when you made your list of fake relationship details. Or maybe it was during dinner when you listened to my father talk about the house for 30 minutes without getting bored. Or last night when you stood up to Trevor and made me feel protected and valued. She reached up to touch his face. This did start as fake. But it became the most real thing in my life. You see me, Owen. Not who my family wants me to be or who Trevor thought I should be. Just me. And you make me feel like that's enough. Owen smiled, his eyes bright with unshed tears. It's more than enough. You're everything. He leaned down and kissed her softly. Natalie kissed him back, forgetting about their audience, forgetting about the drama and complications. For this moment, there was only Owen and the truth finally spoken between them. When they pulled apart, the room erupted. Catherine was crying, smiling through her tears. Monica was clapping. Patrick let out a whoop of approval. James was grinning. David looked emotional in a way Natalie rarely saw. Trevor stood frozen, his face cycling through shock, anger, and something that might have been regret. Amber had moved away from him, wiping her own tears. "I'm sorry," Amber said to the room. "I didn't know about any of this. Trevor, I think we need to talk. Privately." Trevor looked at Natalie one last time, then nodded and followed Amber out of the dining room. The door closed behind them with finality. Catherine came around the table and pulled both Natalie and Owen into a hug. "You too. Giving your mother a heart attack with all this drama." "I'm sorry, Mom," Natalie said. "I should have just been honest from the beginning." "You should have," Catherine agreed, pulling back to look at her daughter seriously. "But I understand why you weren't. We've been putting too much pressure on you about relationships and success. We made you feel like you weren't enough as you are." "You've always been enough," David added, joining them. "We just wanted you to be happy. We thought that meant finding a partner, but we should have trusted that you'd find your own path." "In my defense," Owen said with a slight smile, "I did intend to win you over properly. The fake relationship just accelerated the timeline." James laughed. "Well, you certainly made an impression. Though next time, maybe skip the elaborate deception." "There won't be a next time," Natalie said firmly, looking at Owen. "No more pretending. Just truth from now on." "Deal," Owen agreed, kissing her forehead. They spent the rest of breakfast explaining how they had actually met through work, how the fake relationship plan had developed, and how their feelings had evolved. Catherine wanted to know everything, making them recount each detail. Patrick thought the whole thing was hilarious. Monica admitted she had suspected something was off but couldn't pinpoint what. Later that afternoon, Natalie and Owen walked along the lakeshore behind the house. The winter wind was cold, but Owen kept his arm around her, keeping her warm. "So," Owen said, "we've handled the dramatic revelation. What happens now?" "Now we do this for real," Natalie said. "No more scripts or planned stories. Just us figuring things out together. I can work with that." Owen stopped walking and turned to face her. "Though I should probably tell you something else." "What?" "I'm not actually a millionaire," Owen admitted with a sheepish smile. "I do well, but I'm not wealthy by your family's standards. I have student loans and a mortgage. My car is 5 years old." "I was worried about that, given Trevor's comments." Natalie laughed, the sound carrying across the empty beach. "Owen, I don't care about that. I never did. My family's money is my parents' money, not mine. I have my own small apartment and a reasonable salary. We're on the same level." "Good. Because I was prepared to be intimidated by your family's wealth for our entire relationship." "Our relationship," Natalie repeated, testing the words. "I like how that sounds." "Me too." Owen pulled her closer. "So, event coordinator girlfriend of mine, would you like to have dinner with me next Saturday? A real first date where we don't have to pretend or perform?" I would love that, architect boyfriend of mine. They kissed again, taking their time now that there was no audience and no pretense. When they finally pulled apart, Natalie rested her forehead against Owen's. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For agreeing to this crazy plan. For being brave enough to tell the truth. For seeing me when I felt invisible." Owen smiled. "Thank you for giving me the chance to know the real you. Though I have to say, your family's Christmas gatherings are quite eventful." "Is it always this dramatic?" Natalie laughed. "Usually not. You brought out something special." As they walked back toward the house, Natalie saw Trevor and Amber loading their car. Trevor looked over and their eyes met briefly. He nodded once, a gesture of acknowledgement and perhaps goodbye. Amber waved, her smile sad but genuine. "Do you feel bad?" Owen asked quietly. "No," Natalie said honestly. "I feel free. Trevor wanted me to be someone I wasn't. He wanted ambition and status and all these external things. You just want me." "I want all of you," Owen corrected. "The ambitious parts and the quiet parts. The successful moments and the struggling ones. Everything." That evening, the family gathered in the living room for games and conversation. The tension from breakfast had dissolved, replaced by genuine warmth. Catherine cornered Owen to ask about his family, insisting they must meet for dinner soon. David showed him more of his model ship collection. Patrick challenged him to a video game tournament. Natalie watched it all with a sense of wonder. This was what she had wanted when she first asked Owen to pretend. Acceptance and approval from her family. But what she had found was so much better. She had found someone who chose her for who she actually was. Later, back in the blue room, they packed their bags for the return to Chicago the next morning. Owen folded his clothes methodically while Natalie threw hers in haphazardly. "I'm terrible at packing," she admitted. "I noticed. But it's endearing." Owen pulled her away from her suitcase. "We should talk about logistics. Work will be complicated for a while. People will find out we're dating. Let them. We're not breaking any policies. We work for different departments. As long as we maintain professionalism at the office, it should be fine." Natalie nodded. "And if it becomes a problem? Then we'll handle it. Together." Owen tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm not afraid of complications if it means being with you. When did you get so romantic?" "I've always been romantic. You just never noticed because you saw me as the annoying architect who questioned your venue layouts." "You did question my layouts a lot. Because I was trying to get your attention," Owen admitted with a grin. Mission accomplished, apparently. They climbed into bed, naturally moving into each other's arms. Tomorrow they would drive back to reality. There would be questions at work, adjustments to their routines, and the normal challenges of a new relationship. But tonight, wrapped in each other's warmth, everything felt simple and right. "Owen?" Natalie said into the darkness. "Yes?" "I'm glad Trevor was jealous. I'm glad this whole crazy plan happened. Because otherwise I might never have realized what was right in front of me." Owen kissed the top of her head. "Sometimes the best things in life come from unexpected places. Like a fake relationship that turns into real love. Like a Christmas gathering that turns into a new beginning." "Exactly." As Natalie drifted toward sleep, she thought about how much had changed in just 3 days. She had arrived at her family's estate dreading another Christmas of judgment and pity. She was leaving with a real relationship built on honesty and genuine connection. The fake millionaire boyfriend had revealed something true. Love didn't come from elaborate planning or perfect circumstances. It came from two people seeing each other clearly and choosing each other anyway. It came from stolen moments and honest conversations. It came from pretending until pretending became real. And sometimes, the jealousy that exposed a lie also revealed a truth worth keeping. The end.